being in this space that's so tender and so sacred, it felt like I'm meant to be more in this space, and not in the sense of like, I must suffer forever, but I can be here and I can hold it. And I think it's so unfair how grief is just considered like a nuisance or like something to get over, something to fix. It's not. It's kind of a wake-up call.
Welcome to The Rainbow Connection. This podcast was designed for mothers who are finding their way through life after loss. Whether you're grieving, trying to conceive again, newly pregnant, or holding hope in your heart for what's to come, this space is for you. Each week, you'll hear real and tender stories of love, heartbreak, healing, and the babies who continue to shape us. I'm your host, Kristin Mundy, a mother, doula, and a woman who's walked this path too. May these conversations remind you that you are not alone, that your baby is never forgotten, and that hope and grief can live here together. Before we dive into today's episode, I want to tell you about Mother Like No Other, a special community for women who are navigating the tender season of life after loss. Inside Mother Like No Other, you'll find a warm, supportive space of moms who truly get it, plus practical tools to help you through the hard days. You'll have access to a private online community where you can connect with me, an experienced doula, and other moms navigating the same journey. Each month, we gather for live workshops to connect and learn, covering topics like supporting your fertility journey, grounding strategies, self-advocacy, and ways to nurture your mind, body, and soul. We also bring in guest speakers to share their expertise and inspiration. The best part? It's only $22 a month. No long-term commitment, just real support when you need it most. If you're ready to feel more grounded, connected, and held through this season, come join us at thedoulalife.ca/mother. You do not have to go through this journey alone. And by joining us inside Mother Like No Other, you won't have to. Today's episode is one that feels really close to my heart. I'm joined by Simona, someone who has deeply inspired me, both through her courage and the way she shows up so authentically in her healing. I've had the privilege of walking alongside her in this season, and now I'm lucky enough to call her my friend. Simona lives in Berlin, and she joins me today to share the story of her son, Saul, who was sadly stillborn at 19 weeks, and the journey that's unfolded ever since that day. She opens up about navigating endometriosis and IVF, grieving far from family, and uncovering her mother's own unspoken loss, the stillbirth of her first daughter, a silence that has shaped generations. We talk about medical trauma, embodiment, and what it means to mother when the world doesn't always see you as one. And we explore the ways that she's been finding her way back home to herself through yoga, breathwork, and the sacred practice of allowing her emotions to move through her body, something that we talk about a lot in the doula life. This conversation is a reminder that grief and love are never separate. They live side by side. Okay, enough from me. Now let's hear from Simona. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Rainbow Connection. Today, I am joined with Simona. She is calling in from Berlin, actually. Hi, Simona. Thanks so much for being here today.
Hi, Kristin. Thank you so much for having me and all the other mothers.
I'm really looking forward to our chat today and connecting. Simona and I are just started recently working together, and we're just starting to get to know each other. So this is really lovely for us to be able to connect like this. Simona is going to be sharing an angel baby story with us today and a little bit about what life is looking like now. But before we dive into that, maybe you could share a little bit about yourself with our listeners today.
Sure, yeah. I'm actually not originally from Berlin or from Germany. I'm from Romania. But currently I'm living here in Berlin with my husband, who is actually from South Africa. So we're quite a diverse expat couple. And today I'm going to be sharing about my story, about my angel baby, Saul, and about my difficult journey into motherhood in general. Yeah, a bit of infertility, a bit of finding myself, and all the other rest of things that life as an expatriate has to offer, because it means actually that both of our families are not here.
Well, why don't we start wherever, we would love to hear more about your angel baby. So why don't we start there?
Yeah, sure. So as I mentioned, I think 2.5 years ago, I finally received my diagnosis as having endometriosis, which I don't know how many of the listeners know. It's quite complex because it's not just the atrocious pain that people know about it. It's also infertility, and it can be very hidden and take years. And you don't know what's wrong with you, why you're not becoming pregnant, and so on. So with that, my journey had to go into assisted reproduction, so IVF, and everything had to happen pretty fast because of some particularities here in Germany. Had a first round of IVF, and that wasn't successful. Then next month we move forward, and then to our very big happiness and surprise, that worked. Yeah, I was just shorter than a month to turning 40, and yeah, I was elated.
Of course you were. I love that we're talking. I hate that we're talking about, but I'm glad we're talking about endometriosis because it's something here I know so many women do struggle about, and there's such a limited lack of knowledge of what that means. And I'm just sorry that you had to journey through that, but so glad that you were able to be successful with your IVF.
Yeah, it gave me so much joy and hope. And yeah, I guess the first trimester was pretty easy. I was always really thankful. Then my first big ultrasound was okay. Everything was looking fine. And as I transitioned to my second trimester, or a little before that, I started feeling some anxiety, but I didn't really know what to make of it. And then also the monitoring was less. I guess the IVF gave me the opportunity to see this little guy from a little bead, from a little sack with a dot, to like growing into a bigger embryo fetus, just everything. Yeah, and then one Friday morning, I think it was actually my 19th week, I started feeling some weird pain, like period pain, and then shortly had some spotting. And yeah, I decided to go to the hospital, and obviously we waited a bit of triage. Then they sent us up to the OBGYN, and finally we had a doctor, called us through, asked about how I'm feeling, and then I went on the table for the ultrasound. It was already, it was 19 week. It was my second ultrasound on the belly. All the others, because the monitorings started early, they were vaginal, so yeah. And I guess like you see the doctor, it was a younger doctor on, and she put the ultrasound, she looked a little bit, and then she excused herself and went out of the room. So both me and my husband were just, I was on the table, he was in a chair, and we didn't know what's happening. And then she called the head doctor, and they gave me the news. I guess a part of me already knew when she left the room. And I was just in shock. They started trying to give us information. They saw that we were both very sad, obviously. So it was in the afternoon. She said, go home and come back tomorrow morning. Yeah, I was just in shock. I remember, I think I only wrote to my family and to my therapist. To my luck, I was already working with one. And I just prayed to go to sleep.
Now, what kind of things were they able to give you any information? When they wanted you to come back, did they give you any idea of what to expect, or how are they taking care of you during this?
They just started speaking about like what I need to know, what will the next step be, but they could kind of see that I wasn't taking in the information. That's why they decided to call me the next day. And we came back in the morning. I was able to get some sleep, so I guess my brain was half working. And then they told me that I have this option with taking this pill that will induce labor. They wanted to run some tests again and made me wait for like an hour and a half. I went outside, I took a walk, came back, still waited. And they were suggesting they were doing that. That was already a Saturday morning. And they wanted to do this the next day on Sunday. But it was my husband's birthday. His 40th was. So I said, oh, can we push it by one day? And they just told me something like, if you feel any big pain, just come back. Obviously, that was way too early for me to know about contraction on anything of the sort. But then, went home really late in the night, started having cramps, what I thought was cramps. And then my water broke.
And this was going into your husband's 40th birthday. This was the night going into your husband's 40th birthday.
Yeah. And we had family visiting.
Oh, boy.
I think it was close to midnight. I just crawled into the kitchen and said, hey, honey, happy birthday. I think you need to take me to the hospital.
That must have been so hard.
Yeah. But it also was very scary because I was basically in labor. I had contractions and they started being pretty close apart. I could barely move, could barely walk. And then we took a car, we went to the hospital, and I knocked. They let me in, and they sent a midwife to the room. So the system is that they have midwives on call, and that you get one assigned to you. Yeah, so she just came into her shift. She was already informed that it's going to be a stillborn. And she was just wonderful. Even though we didn't have time to discuss how it's going to be, like, does my husband want to be with me through the birth and everything? He had to be there. And he was there.
You needed him.
Yeah. I also was pretty surprised. I think I had only time to go through 3 prenatal yoga classes, but they were really good. And because we were different, the women participating were on different stages of their pregnancy, she would give the complete kind of expectation, breathing exercises and everything. Yeah, I just continue what I learned in class, and it helped immensely.
Oh, I'm so glad.
Yeah. Obviously, I had pain. I don't know exactly what they gave me. They put an IV. So also was kind of falling asleep. By the time I got to the hospital, it was like 1. And then around 5 o'clock, yeah, it was really close. She checked. I was already dilated, I think about 5 centimeters, which was enough for my tiny baby. And yeah, 5:14, I delivered him.
Do you know that he was a boy?
No. No. We had the chance when we had our first prenatal checkup, the big one. They also took blood and they asked me if I wanted to know, but if I wanted to be surprised, it didn't matter for me. So then my midwife told me, and she cleaned him a bit, and she brought him for me to say goodbye. I didn't even think about this stuff, so I'm really thankful that she did. I am proud that I mastered the force to actually say goodbye to him, see him. And she took just 2 photos of him. Yeah, had some time to say goodbye. And I'm really grateful that I did that I could find the force to do it.
I'm glad that you had that midwife too.
Yeah.
Just have that female support with you.
Her name is Sandra. I don't know if I remember that night, but then when I was able to think again, I went on the hospital's website and looked for her. Also, she was very sweet. She came in the morning at 8 o'clock. I think it was the end of her shift. And just to encourage me and just to, give me hope and tell me that she would be happy to help me birth a healthy baby very soon.
What was that night like for you guys after? I guess it was the early morning, but
Yeah.
What were things like after his birth? I know you got to see him, you got to say goodbye, you were able to take those photos. Was your husband, did he get to see him at all or want to spend time with him?
No, for him, that was not something possible. Yeah.
Yeah, everyone's so different, right? And it really is something so incredibly painful. You're not really sure how you're going to feel unless you are really in that situation, right?
Yeah, plus it's not your ideal baby. I don't think I ever showed anyone the pictures. I don't think anyone asked. And it would be complicated because at such a young stage, it's not the baby you would accept. At the time, obviously, we didn't know that he's a boy or anything. So I didn't really get a chance to think of a name. I had a name in mind for a boy, but then I was not sure I want to use that name. So I took some time in that aftermath to think about it and chose the name. And there was also time before we had the ceremony to say goodbye to him. There was a bit of a complication. They asked us if we would want a autopsy. And I know everyone's different, but we wanted one because I knew that we're not going to give up. We still want to have a child, and it would be very important to know. It's a little bit more complicated, but I would have to go to my gynecologist, and she somehow go and sort so that we can have this autopsy or the genetic part of it, and she didn't. So we never had that answer of what could have happened.
So they weren't able to run any genetic testing either?
No.
I'm so sorry. I know how hard it can be to not get those answers. It really is like an impossible feeling.
Yeah, because you want to know, okay, is there something I can do? Do I need to take some medication? Was there an issue with me? Or is there some danger of genetic issues with us as a couple?
Mm-hmm.
And
Now, do you know if your hospital's policy where you delivered, if they have any protocols that automatically sends the baby's placenta to pathology or anything? Because I know that they can run genetic testing through that.
this is where the part where the hospital failed me, so to say. So my placenta had broken.
So you had an abruption, or was that during delivery?
During delivery. I mean, I don't know if there was anything before that, but the tissue that they sent with the baby was too small. The thing is, my body was still eliminating the placenta. But by that time, my midwife has gone, her shift was over. My husband had to go home to see the family. They didn't know anything. So they must have woken up to a empty apartment. Plus, they wanted to have some food and try to make something of the day, as it was his birthday.
Did they know that you were expecting?
Yeah, they did know. I mean, it was already visible.
I would think so, yeah.
Yeah. And they already knew from Friday that his heart was stopped beating, so he was not alive.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a lot to have, people in your house witnessing you through, such a traumatic event and losing your precious baby. It's, there's never a good time to lose your baby, but that's pretty tough, that situation.
Yeah. And especially that it brings forefront attitudes about grief and how different they are.
So different. And I'm sure very different in Europe in general. I'm sure it's even culturally very different as well, right?
Yeah. But also just different from family to family.
Yeah, totally. What was it like, following, not having those answers? What was like the next step for you guys? Just knowing that the hospital let you down and your OBGYN let you down. Did you have any desire to go find answers elsewhere or do any other testing, or what did that process look like afterwards?
Yeah, I mean, of course, it was hard to accept that there's no answer. There's no reason.
Mhm.
Obviously, there's nothing else to do regarding Saul because we chose cremation. Yeah, one of those choices that you don't expect to be making.
The most horrible choice.
Instead of the, I don't know, color of the room or baby clothing, you have to think burial or cremation.
Did you guys, were you able to, I know you mentioned that you had a ceremony. Did you hold a funeral or a ceremony for him?
So it was a ceremony that a collaboration of the Protestant church with the hospital was doing it. They were offering this service, and here in Germany, even if you choose cremation, the urn has to be buried or kept there. You cannot have it in your own home. So they arranged that, the church, and they did it for multiple families. So it was a shared ceremony. And it was about 2 months after. Yeah, it was tough. But they really did it very nicely. The service itself was very well thought. The words, the comforting, was really skillful. Initially, my husband didn't want to come to the ceremony, but I was pretty stubborn and said, "No, you don't have a choice here. You're coming, and that's it." And it was actually a lot of the parents couldn't be there. I think the ceremony was held for 15 little ones, and I think only half of the parents were there. Half of them couldn't even get themselves together to participate there. And it's totally understandable. It's
an impossible situation, right?
Yeah.
No matter what you choose, showing up or not showing up. It's none of us imagine going to our baby's funeral or our baby's ceremony. It's really an impossible choice.
It is. And what was amazing for me was that I knew that I'm willing to go through it any number of times is necessary until I get my baby. It's something that it shows you beyond any doubt how much you want to be a parent. And yeah, I don't know how much support I received postpartum as being treated postpartum. Even after giving birth, as I said, my placenta wasn't all out. So they told me they would need to perform a surgery to make sure everything's out and there's no risk for infection. Obviously, I was no longer like an emergency case. So I was waiting for surgery from 8 o'clock in the morning. So I wasn't given any water, any food.
And you had just given birth.
Yeah. And that went on until 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
I'm so sorry.
At one point, I remember just buzzing the nurse and said, "Hey, you give me an IV. I don't know what you do, but you can't just let me here."
How did she respond to that?
The nurse wasn't such a warm person, so she just kind of made sure they bring an IV and probably gave me some nutrients. But yeah, I was already kind of like tired and had absolutely no force. And I remember still having contractions up until like 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock in the morning.
Your body was still working on trying to get that placenta out.
Yeah. But by that time, my husband had left. There was no one there. So I was just waiting and just going to the bathroom. I think a lot of it came out by itself. So I was really amazed of how my body knew what to do. Even if I had zero instructions, zero knowledge.
At this point, were your nurses coming in to like check on you and take care of you? Or were they just kind of like you had delivered and they kind of wiped their hands because you were waiting?
Yeah. I was there in the room. I was waiting.
Oh my gosh.
And I had to buzz them in to say, "Hey, I'm like, I need food. I need something." and then just gave me an IV.
I'm so sorry. You deserved so much more compassion and care at that time, because you not only just delivered, but you also had just lost your child and were alone. And it's just absolutely awful the way that they treated you.
Yeah, and I just feel like there's no real space for empathy in the medical system.
Mm-hmm.
Even how they stopped doing the ultrasound. Like the moment I went on, the second trimester, it was only one per month.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in a lot of places where we are in North America, typically you get a dating ultrasound. Sometimes you don't get that, and that's around, 8-ish weeks for some. You get the 12-week, and then you get a 20-week anatomy scan, and that's it for the whole pregnancy, which is crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. It's, I mean, obviously in Europe it's a lot different. The sense of you get proper maternity leave. And I mean, in Germany, you get to stay 1 year at home with your baby and get paid like 60%, depending. They have a cap.
Yeah, in Canada, it's a year to 18 months, but I know in the States, in United States, they get next to none, 6 weeks in a lot of places, maybe 3 months in some other places. But yeah, they don't really get anything. 6 weeks is nothing, right?
Absolutely nothing. And it kind of makes me think, and here is the part where I want to circle back to my anxiety. I don't know if it was actually my body telling me that something's not quite right, or it was also the fact that I realized that, so my mother, my firstborn daughter, my first sister was a stillborn. And the complicated thing is that I don't know this from my mother.
You never
That,
you never grew up knowing about her.
no, I think I was in my 20s already. I also have an older sister, and our dad, out of nothing, told us that, we had another daughter before you guys. And she died at birth.
Oh, wow.
And that was it. But we were in our early 20s. I guess our main goal in life was not to get pregnant. So we didn't really ask a lot of questions.
Well, and it's so scary. At that age, it would be an uncomfortable, maybe scary thing to talk about because you're 20 years old. Like you're not really equipped at that moment. You're kind of in a selfish period of life, right?
Yeah. So after losing Saul, I really thought about my mom's experience.
I bet you did.
And I really thought about how much anxiety she must have felt with both me and my sister, realizing that there was no space for her. So her decision was to just bury the experience and never speak of it. And she couldn't speak of it, not even after what happened to me. And that for me was very difficult because she couldn't be there for me. She couldn't be here for herself. I understand that. But that longing to share an experience, because I know we do share this experience.
She's not just your mother in that moment. She is another mother, right? You
Yeah.
share that like collective grief.
And she couldn't. She can't.
While we take a quick break, I wanted to introduce you to The Haven. my signature 12-week support program for mothers who are pregnant again after miscarriage, TFMR, stillbirth, or infant loss. This isn't just a course. It's a trauma-informed community program that includes weekly live workshops, expert guest speakers, and ongoing support from me, an experienced doula and fellow lost mom, anytime you need it. You'll also receive one-on-one check-ins, guided journaling prompts, full access to my birth course, Reclaim, and a warm, intimate community of other pal mothers, a place where you can be real, be held, and be reminded that you are not alone in this. Our winter cohort begins this January, and the waitlist is now open. You can find all the details at thedoulalife.ca/haven. In the Haven, your baby is remembered, your voice is honored, and you are fully supported every step of the way. Well, and you needed your mother. It was I'm sure it's like a very complicated situation in terms of, this is something that your mother experienced and she could get some healing from it and also be able to provide you some sort of guidance because she's walked those roads before, but also you're her daughter and you needed a mother. You needed that love and care. And yeah, I'm so sorry that didn't happen. Did you ever, approach her or try to get that support or to connect her with her in that way?
I did. But she can't. There's still she can't go in that place.
Sorry.
I am also very sorry that my first sister wasn't honored how she should have been. So I decided then that I'm going to tell her story. I'm not going to deny what happened to the family.
That's really beautiful because you're breaking, that generational trauma, those patterns, right? You're paving a new way for your son and your family.
I mean, she's my sister. I have every right to do so. And my sister was pretty open. She was pretty supportive. If she's willing to acknowledge her as part of our family. I don't know if you have took any decision like getting a tattoo or getting something.
Not yet. I hope one day.
Yeah, I did that time. So now I have 2 little piercings. Black little star, that's for her, for my sister, and a gold little star, that's for Saul.
That's beautiful.
Mm-hmm. I just really felt like I need to have them with me at every step.
I love that. Did you ever find out your sister's name?
No, because my mother doesn't speak about it. And my dad had already passed in 2016. So I don't know if they got to do that.
Yeah, if she even has a name, that's true.
Yeah.
You know what? You never know where life is going to go. And I think your mother watching you and how you honor Saul and how you're honoring her baby, you never know what could transpire from that and what wounds might open or, pathways of conversation might open. As I'm sure you know, like you can push your grief down and you can push your baby down, but it's always there. It's going to come up at some point. So,
Yeah. I didn't choose that path. I went straight in it.
tell me what that looked like for you to go straight into it.
In the aftermath, you're still in this disbelief, in this denial. You wake up every morning and you just hope everything goes bad for me. And when it's not, it's just, you're just overwhelmed. you don't understand how the world works. How can people just do their thing?
I heard a quote the other day and it's really stuck with me. And a mom was like looking at her window and she was saying like, how are they playing out there? My daughter just died. How are people playing and like living? My daughter just died. And I find that like what you're saying, it's so true. You just kind of expect the world to stop. Like this just happened. This horrific thing happened. How has my life stopped and everyone else is still going?
Just feels surreal. And my life did stop.
Mm-hmm.
Just the rug was swept off. I was somewhere in the air, not floating, not flying, just being stuck there in an impossible state. Obviously, I was riding with my therapist, and she is grief informed, but she also knew that at that point, speech therapy is not going to do much in this acute phase of grief.
You can only talk about it so much, right? You need to like actually move it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She immediately also recommended me a book that I will always recommend, not to every grieving person, because it's called Bearing the Unbearable. It's written by Dr. Joanna Cacciatore, and it's about her experience of losing her own daughter and then becoming a grief therapist and being with families going through this particular experience. I think the very first thing in the book that gave me this lifeline was her saying that grief is just the other side of love. And for her to create that possibility where it's that moment where you're like, it hurts so much. I must have loved so much. But just having that realization, it gives it a completely new dimension. So my mind continued with the reading. It's still something that I'm interested in, and I actually want to pursue more grief counseling. And somehow, otherwise, I managed to get some time off, not had to go back to work immediately, and I still had my gym membership. So I just started to go to random classes, kind of letting my body guide me, just opening the app and seeing kind of what's available. So I discovered yin yoga and breathwork. And these are tools that I still use to the day to help me be there in my body and let my body do what it knows how to do. Move, let things move. So yeah, that was, thinking back, that was such intuitive instincts to be like, I need to move, and I need to move in a certain way to allow all that is right now to be.
Did you find that both of those practices kind of let you not just move and move the energy, but do you find that it got you kind of more tapped into actually feeling it? So I know for some people, when they go to yoga, for instance, they cry a lot because they are giving themselves that opportunity to go there and move that energy. And sometimes moving that energy is like crying it out, right? Like how did it help you kind of process that? How did it show up for you?
Because of these practices are very, so the type of breath I practice, it's holotropic breath or rebirth breath. The particular of the class that I chose is that this active part is only for like 20 minutes. And then there's a really big rebound phase of like 30 minutes. And then the teacher also uses Reiki. It helps you really stop the thoughts in your mind. It's impossible when you're that engaged with your breath. And it's a really beautiful space. Get also some encouraging messages. Like, it sounds really trippy because it's called holotropic for a reason. You can have really like psychedelic experiences.
You really connect with like a different realm, right?
Yeah, you're definitely connecting to a lot of things. And I remember one of the visualizations was like a whole bloodline of kind of mothers kind of holding me in that space.
So beautiful.
Yeah, it's really an amazing practice. And then with the yoga, because I chose this specific yin or restorative, that allows you exactly to go in and really sit with what's happening. On the outside, it's looking like you're just lying on a mattress or in a certain pose with some props and doing nothing, but you're there with everything that's moving through your body.
Yeah, there's a lot happening.
Yeah.
I find that too when you have sort of that disconnection with your own mother. I talk a lot about like mothering yourself and like taking care of like really gentle care of yourself. And like yin yoga or restorative yoga is almost that idea in a yoga practice, because it really is like putting you down in a comfortable position, maybe wrapping yourself up in a blanket and like taking really good, gentle, mother-like care of yourself, right?
And just helping you make space.
Like being safe, like it's safe to go here, to feel this right now.
Yeah. There were times where I was simply exhausted. I think I cried on a daily basis for like 3 or 4 months. It was still kind of sunny or whatever. I would just put on my sunglasses and just cry anywhere I felt. I guess the beauty of living in a big city like a Berlin and crazy city like Berlin, you can cry anywhere you want and no one's gonna bother
They'll
you.
never remember you. Yeah, there's like a million other people around.
I think for half a year, I did not wear any mascara or anything because what's the point?
Yeah, why?
Yeah, so I also had a meditation group, and I was in a group for anxiety, and then I shifted to the grief group. And yeah, we get to share with other people who grieve.
How does that feel?
It's really amazing because there are times when you know there's no space for what you need to process. And that hour is like you can tell yourself, darling, not now, but Tuesday evening, we get to sit with this. We get to share it. We get to have it witnessed and contained. Yeah, it's also been one of the resources that were amazing for me. Especially that I don't have as many friends here as I wish I had. I didn't really find like an in-person group. So this is a group that's also kind of all over the world, and we meet online. So for me, my support was very much digital and remote.
I can definitely relate to that, just because I found the supports here, like none of them were kind of enough for me or the right support I needed. A lot of my support came from strangers on the internet, and they got it. And I was like, well, whatever way I need to get that support is good for me. Like I didn't mind it. It was also during COVID, so it was like the in-person supports weren't really existing either. But I'm glad that you were able to tap into those resources and find those people no matter where they were.
It was also challenging to see who can be there for me or who cannot be there for me. And David Kessler has a saying that grief rearranges your Rolodex. He's so right.
I like David Kessler. He says a lot of really things that stick. It totally does. Were any of those like surprises to you?
Yeah. Had some mothers, friends that just served me the good old God must have a plan. And there were just others that got it, that could be there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's another part of the grief that, doesn't get talked about a lot, right? Is like you've already lost your baby, and then having to lose relationships is just, it's an incredibly painful process because like you didn't want any of this to happen. You didn't want those friendships or relationships to change. And unfortunately, grief it really does touch every aspect in your life. And one of the big ways is all of your relationships. Nothing goes untouched.
Yeah. But to some relationships, it adds a depth that you didn't think was possible. And then you're like, I have my people.
It takes time, but you do find them.
And the ones that don't, at least you know where the boundaries are. Another thing that David Kessler said, like, you find yourself wanting to buy oranges in the hardware store. So every time I try to get something out of people that were clearly like, grief, no, I was like, wait, why am I looking for
oranges in the hardware store?
This is the hardware store. The hardware store has, I don't know, tools to fix stuff.
That was honestly one of the reasons why this podcast even exists, because there really is this, some of the people we love the dearest that have been a part of our lives forever are the ones that surprised us after our grief. And we're like, no, I don't want this relationship to change. Like, I love you. I love our relationship. And like, I can't look away from you not being able to be here for me. Like, this is a deal breaker, and like, you don't want it to be, but some of those people just inherently do have a lack of capacity. Like, they aren't able to, they don't have the skills, they can't go there. And I wanted this podcast to be a platform where maybe it was safer for them to go there. Like, maybe they couldn't have the conversation with you face to face, but they love you dearly too. And this might be an easier, alternative for them to hear your story and hear your heart. And it's not the same, and we still want it to be different, but at least it gets them to, kind of forces them to hear you and see you, right? Yeah. If they're willing to just listen.
I think it's also a matter of how much capacity they also have. Having to go through this situation with my mom, it also brought a lot of empathy into like, she cannot. And just kind of accept people are where they are.
You never know what's going on in someone's life, right?
Yeah. And if they're not there, it doesn't mean they don't care. It can mean that they're completely overwhelmed.
Just don't have the bandwidth. Yeah. That's so true.
And yeah, I guess I learned how to be a lot more honest with myself. I think if there's something that I need to thank Saul for, was how much I get to tap into my body. For example, with my belly, I think when I had him and when my belly was starting to grow, it was the first time in my life where I could just breathe all the way into my belly. Because normally you have this posture, you want to have your very flat ab, so you never breathe in there. And ever since then, I'm just like, I'm proud of my belly. I love my belly breaths. I love my belly laughs.
Hmm.
And yeah, I got a chance to also explore more understanding my feelings, naming them, and ultimately thinking about reparenting myself.
I know you said you like Gabor Mate, Dr. Gabor Mate, and
Yeah.
I really love his work too, and he talks so much about that, right?
Yeah. So I'm lucky enough that my therapist that I work with, she was trained under Gabor. She's
Amazing.
actually now helping him train other therapists. The method is called compassion inquiry.
Hmm.
And it also works with this somatic perspective, like really tapping into what feels and how it feels in your body. And then also learning how emotions show up in your body and how strange it can be at times.
That's fascinating.
And I also, now that you brought him into the discussion, he has a very good book called When the Body Says No. And it's basically about autoimmune diseases. And he speaks about this complex system that he calls the PNI, psychoneuro immunoendocrine, and how all of these things are connected. How our emotions go into our nervous system, and that goes into our hormones and immune system. And he also speaks about how 80% of the people with autoimmune diseases are women.
And
And
usually have some sort of, childhood trauma.
yeah. I mean, I simply don't understand why they don't just give people the ACE test, adverse childhood. It's just 10 questions. And then you realize.
Wow. Now, has that been a part of well, why don't you tell us a little bit about what life might look like now? I know that you said you would go through anything to have that baby in your arms. And I'm sure this reparenting and exploring, these teachings and learning about our bodies and our immune system, and also knowing that you have endometriosis, like how does this all tie together? And, what does life look like now for you?
I'm still very much learning about all this stuff. So I currently work as a user experience designer. I initially studied visual communication and worked in advertising. I've always had a very keen interest for psychology. And now things kind of tie together, and I'm thinking about another pivot. I'm also thinking about grief because it's something that I think is strange to say it, but it's one of the things that made me come alive like nothing else. So being in this space that's so tender and so sacred, it felt like I'm meant to be more in this space. And not in the sense of like, I must suffer forever, but I can be here and I can hold it. And I think it's so unfair how grief is just considered like a nuisance or like something to get over, something to fix. It's not. It's kind of a wake up call. So still figuring out how am I going to do this? How am I going to make it like my job? But I have time enough. Also, I don't have all the resources to put into this because we're still trying. We had other rounds of IVF. I still had embryos from the time I had Saul. And there were those transfers that, didn't succeed. And it's also slowly allowing myself the possibility of becoming a mother in another way, because I'm not one of those people who are like, if these are not my genes, I don't want any part of it. No, we're considering adoption. It's like the next step. We still have a try with IVF. And if that doesn't work, that's the direction where we're going. And all of the readings around grief and psychology have made me understand a lot more about adoption, that you're basically taking a child with a big attachment wound.
Mm-hmm. Huge attachment wound.
And that's something that you're working with.
Totally. And it's lifelong if you're adopting this child, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, for someone who has to try so hard, right, and has to go through such a journey, it's imagining, well, that someone can not be with their baby.
I know.
And
it's truly like a whole other world. It's so difficult to comprehend on this side of loss. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, you're going to have to keep us, posted with your next steps and what they look like. I mean, you're a beautiful mother, and any baby would be hit the jackpot to have you as their mom and to care so much. And I am looking forward to watching your journey and watching where life takes you, and, continuing to work together too, right, on that journey. So I'm so glad that we've connected.
Yeah. I'm also so fortunate to have found your Instagram and have felt so seen. And I think I thank you so many times for the bravery to put it out there and give a voice to so many mothers who can't.
I see so much bravery in you too. And I just really want to validate and recognize that what you're doing in your family lineage and how you're showing up for Saul, and it's a big deal. And you're not just healing yourself, but you're healing, the generations that come after you as well. So I really want to acknowledge that and tell you that you're so courageous and beautiful, and I'm just so proud of you.
Thank you so much. I think the biggest thing is just having someone acknowledge that I'm a mom, because the rest of the world, if you don't have the proof, then
I see you.
We are.
I see you, and you're a beautiful mom.
And you are too. And looking forward to working with you, watching your journey with Seni.
Thank you so much for tuning in today. If this episode touched your heart, it would mean the world to me if you took a moment to rate and review The Rainbow Connection. Your words help this podcast reach other mothers who need to hear these stories, the ones still searching for hope, for comfort, and for connection after loss. Every review, every star, every kind word truly makes a difference. Thank you for helping me keep these stories alive. I'll see you in the next episode.